Hi friends, here on planet Earth, it's Friday, February 20th, 2015. Here in the Lynn-Body-Mind, it's me, Sam, also Pan, and Paul the Attorney. In the Jamie Body-Mind, we have Glenn, Asha, and Perry the Doctor. We are starting with absolute non-directive intention to do what is ours to do in all dimensions right now, to trigger the awakening right now. And with that, it begins. I have this sensation of standing above the clouds.
That's true.
And there's someone behind me who's really big, pointing out with a really big finger to things that I can't quite make out.
That's true.
And this being, this large, extremely large being, is talking about something. And it has the sensation of reminding us of something that we have been told before.
Yes, that's true. It's possible we're looking at the future. What it looks like is almost like castles made of clouds. The big structures in the distance, they're not close, and they're foggy, misty.
They're unformed,
yes.
Actually. Watching them, it's a good description to say that they're made of clouds, because watching them, they continually change.
Yes.
And the big being behind us is talking about how our actions in this time, and presumably not just our actions, the six of us here, but,
right.
but all of our actions in this time influence the outcome of how those structures will form.
That's true.
And talking about hope and the importance of remaining positive, and about difficult tasks and big projects and long journeys, and how what matters is to keep heart all the way through.
That's true.
And that when we are able to keep headed in a forward direction, in a positive direction, in an upward direction,
yes.
and keep our momentum going, that things go better. And talking about what we have been reminded of all day today is the importance of investing the grace that we accrue
That's
into the work, as it's not only into the work as it's being done, but into our well-being as we're carrying out the work, so that our hearts are joyful, and we're not simply plodding through this like oxen pulling
That's
a
true.
cart out of duty
That's
and
true.
obligation. And they're talking about, this big voice is talking about joy, and how it sparks the heart and creates miracles, where a lack of joy creates results but not miracles.
That's true.
And this big being is talking very lovingly and a little sad tone to the conversation about it's sad to watch us suffering inside when there is no need for suffering inside.
That's true.
That events are going to occur, and that's just the way it is, but that suffering is optional, and we can choose to be joyful and look for the gifts.
That's true.
As we so well know. What now? How may we be of service right now to trigger the awakening
right now?
Longer stretching truth to truth. And now, once we stretch truth to twang the string of us, so to speak, so that these vibrations go out into the dimensions around us, through all the dimensions that we're passing through, when we stretch from truth below to truth above. It's a really long string, moving through an awful lot of dimensions.
That's true.
And to pluck that string and let it vibrate in all the dimensions reveals what actually is. And again, I feel the sadness that this big being has. This big being is really sad at how few beings, sentient presences, are actually interested in truth.
Yes, that's true.
In all these dimensions. I think this was a surprise to this big being as well.
Yes, it's definitely true.
A bitter pill to swallow for this big being.
Yes.
But it is what it is. And that's okay. And how that makes it really clear which resources the big being has to work with and which resources unfortunately aren't ready to relate to truth. Again, showing these clouds that are shifting, the future is influenced by the present, and how important it is for us to continue to just keep going up this extremely long staircase. Left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot.
That's true.
And on the one hand, we can call these actions repetitive.
That's true.
But on the other hand, we can see that by definition, if we're climbing a tall staircase, the actions will come to seem repetitive. But it's the way to get up to the top of the stair.
That's true.
And to keep going. Someone keeping going almost solidifies these clouds into something that's less easily shifted.
That's true.
And more stable. And when that occurs, we'll be able to see the future again.
That's true.
Right now there's been too much shifting, and the future is changing so fast that there's nothing solidifying, and this makes it hard for us to connect with our futures. Because our futures are shifting. But if at least we will be constant in our hearts and in our minds, then our futures can solidify. And this large presence is saying just the fact that it's been hard for us as individuals to see our own futures shows how unstable our own it's not commitment, but unstable our own foundations have been.
That's true.
And I, speaking for myself, Sam, acknowledge that. I believe this big being is talking about all the levels of self that are between us and, I'll call it him, but it could be a female presence, although it presents kind of as male.
As male, that's true.
And that that we have already been through many of those layers from where we started, and that there will be other layers in between where we are now and this large presence.
That's true.
And to not be confused by that as we continue up, moving through these large levels, stepping into the size that they are, that we're growing, and this is a gift, and to be joyful about it.
That's true.
And that until we are the correct size, which is possibly as big as this being is, I don't know, it's possible.
That's true.
That it won't be able to be completed, because this big being can already see what stands between him and us. And it's a lot more of people not wanting to do it. So he says,
that's true.
Take as your working theory that things aren't going to be noticeably different between where you are now and the goal. But that when you get here, well then, we can do this work.
Got it.
And that the challenges are going to happen, but when we feel our well-being wavering, that it is for us to do.
That's true.
To get our right mindset and our right heart set.
That's true.
And to play our grace. Don't be crazy with the grace. He's pointing to the use of the grace. He's got the whole game board laid out from the time we started to now, and it shows how the grace was used. That's fascinating, and how we use it for the good of the effort, and we forget entirely to use it for our well-being. And he's saying that would be like an army buying weaponry and not food.
That's true.
And he's just making the woohoo crazy gesture. Woohoo
right.
Crazy. Take care of yourself. But he means use the grace properly.
Right.
And this ties in with what Ra said to Asha. Keep that rheostat of the self-interest off, no self-interest.
Right.
Keep it low. Keep it as close to off as you can get, so that you don't slide down the slippery slope into me selfishness.
Right.
But you have to take care of yourself or it doesn't work.
That's true.
How may we be of service, right now to trigger the awakening right now? Longer, and we just pluck this string of us, like a harp string. Like I feel like I am a harp string.
That's true.
Sam here talking. And to pluck that string. And I see Pan right next to me, and he's a string also.
It's true.
Looks very natural, like a natural string. And he's vibrating also. And when he vibrates, wow, he looks so happy.
It's true. I seem to be a string.
Yes, I feel you. Glenn?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And Asha, we'll put her right here. And she's a string too. And right now her string is very fine and thin. But that's okay. And now this big hand, it's like an enormous thumb or finger or something.
Yes,
just
I see that.
Plucking these strings, these 6 strings, and putting the ear down to them, like listening to the music and smiling.
That's true. I'd like to ask this big being some questions if he's willing.
Yes. Go on.
I'd like to ask him if he's seen all of the evidence that we've been sending up.
Some of it, not all of it. I have seen some of it. Parts of it have been, I can't quite tell the word, but haven't been viewed.
Well, I'd like to send up the rest of it. Fill in the gaps.
We have the summaries already from, feels like Paul's work and Perry's
That's
work.
true.
And that those are what have been compelling, because they're from, I guess we'd call it third parties or objective observers or outside voices.
That's true.
And when added to the rest of it, the gaps are filled in adequately, and we get the point.
What is the point that you get?
That we have a lot of malfunction in the overall system.
That's true.
And that there are many beings who are given opportunities to step up who do nothing.
Yes, it's
or
true.
do virtually nothing. And the point is, however, that all aspects of ourselves deserve the opportunity. And so this being is suggesting that we think of it like this, saying, think of it as if you have a higher soul who also has a higher soul who also has a higher soul who also has a higher soul.
Yes.
Wouldn't you want all aspects of self to have the opportunity to step up?
Yes.
Yes. And so consider that is in fact what's going on. We can see how Alfred the Drunk
Right.
how Alfred the Drunk, can you see how Alfred the Drunk is in effect a higher soul of yours?
Yes.
And to not give him the chance to step up would have been wrong.
It's true.
He's just one example plucked from this long chain. Free will, for example, the free will universe is an example, yes?
Right.
And how wrong it would have been to not give free will the chance to do the right thing.
Right.
Now, it's interesting that those two are, I'm noticing that those two examples are the two euthanasia examples.
It's true.
Free will asked for and received euthanasia.
That's true.
Alfred the Drunk asked for euthanasia and it has not worked on him.
No.
And this big being is watching me with a really curious and loving expression on the face to see if we figure it out. And so I'll just place a hazard a guess, and that's that free will was willing to do enough of his self-evaluative process, his growth work,
Seems true.
his part, that it worked. Whereas Alfred the Drunk is not doing his part.
That's true.
And no one can do his work for him but him. Therefore, he is suffering. And all aspects of him who are also not moving beyond him are suffering as well. But we have broken out the top, and we have an opportunity to move forward.
That's true.
That we then move through the sea anemone, who was, I guess you'd call it euthanized, but the point of the anemone is that in the nature realms there is often a shifting of sentient presence from one aspect of the all that is to another aspect of the all that is.
Yes.
And so the anemone immediately shifted soul energy into that which was the energy of the overarching planet on which the anemone lived. And is making clear this is not an anemone per se. It's something slightly different, but it looks vaguely like an anemone, so that's the word we're using.
Yes.
A sea creature who doesn't have the ability to move, but who can simply metabolize and is living in a polluted planet and polluted waters.
So, my perception of the long game is we'll continue moving up the levels, giving bigger and bigger beings the chance to press the button. And if we make it...
And do their own growth
and do their own growth work.
Press the button is kind of an oversimplification, but to do what's theirs to do.
Right. And then when we get to the level of this large being, if we get to the level of this large being, without someone else stepping up to the full extent, this large being will push the button.
It's more like if we get to that level and no one else has stepped up in the interim, we will have grown so much that maybe we push the button.
I see.
It's possible. It's more like in order to get there we have to grow. There isn't any other way.
That's true.
To get there than to grow.
That's true.
And then we'll talk about that, right? It's important to have the balance of not being directive and doing what is ours to do. Yes. And so to have the attitude of asking for the button to be pushed is helpful, because then we're not grabbing the bull by the horns.
Right.
We're having non-directive focus.
Right.
But if we show up that day and we have the intention to do what is ours to do in all dimensions right now to trigger the awakening right now, and we're led to a big red button, well then, push the button.
Right. I understand that.
And until then, to remember, light at the back. Light at the back. Until there's a wave of light at the back, so it doesn't feel like we're trudging endlessly, but so that instead it can feel like the joyful surfing experience.